I remember the first time I smelled burnt ozone mixed with blood, not from a battlefield, not in a simulation. It was Earth, what used to be Earth. I was 13 when the skies turned black, not from storms, but from orbiting dreadships. They hovered like carrion birds, silent until they weren't. The Global Defense Network had issued its usual sterile warnings: unexpected contact, maintain shelter protocols, do not engage. But we all knew it was over. They didn't come to parley. They didn't ask for surrender. They came to erase. The Xiraxi Empire, cold-blooded slavers from the Serpent's Arm, struck us with orbital fire first. Cities vaporized. Oceans boiled. A third of Earth's crust collapsed into a sink of molten ruin. And then came the harvesters, massive groundwalkers designed not for combat, but for collection. Of us. I watched my mother dragged into one of their pods, her screams muffled behind glass as the atmosphere hissed shut. My father died trying to stop them. I didn't cry then. I couldn't afford it. I ran through fire, over shattered bones and charred concrete, until even the smoke didn't bother me anymore. We thought the United Colonies would retaliate, that Mars would send fleets, that Luna's military AI would deploy orbital defenses. But they didn't. The Xiraxi didn't just take our people. They took our leaders. They took our history, our libraries, our satellites. They took everything. But they made one mistake. They didn't finish the job. I survived in the orbital ruins of what used to be keto-arcology, scavenging oxygen tanks from ruptured suits, drinking moisture from ventilation frost, eating algae paste from broken ration printers. Years passed, and so did the illusion of rescue. That's when I found the others. In the shadows of Earth's wreckage, survivors, like roaches in ruins, were forming a new creed. We called ourselves the Hollowborn, named for what they left us with: hollow hearts, hollow homes, hollow futures, but not hollow purpose. Among us was a man known only as Gage, once a systems colonel, now a ghost of vengeance, scarred, silent, but burning with something I hadn't seen in years. Hope. We rebuild, he told us, voice ragged from vacuum exposure. Not Earth, not the old way. We rebuild us, and then we burn them back. Some called him mad. I didn't, because I'd seen what the Xiraxi did. I'd watched their larvae crawl over the dead, using our bodies as fertilizer. Gage trained us in the void, how to handle zero-G combat, how to hijack drifting Xiraxi tech and reprogram it with old Earth code, how to kill them fast or make it hurt. We became pirates of vengeance, not for profit, for payback. My first kill was personal. A Xiraxi scout frigate drifted too close to Lagrange Point 3. We snared it with tethered drones and punched our way in. I remember the expressionless bug face of their handler captain as I tore his respirator out and slammed a plasma blade through his thorax. I stared into his compound eyes until they clouded with death. I felt nothing, only hunger. They took everything from us. Now we were taking it back, one ship, one scream, one red-drenched deck at a time. But we weren't the only ones with a plan. There were rumors, whispers caught in decrypted enemy comms. The Xiraxi were scared, not of us, but of something we didn't even know we had, something buried in the wreck of Earth. A weapon, a signal, or maybe a survivor. We called the mission Requital. Our target? The Crown Forge, the Xiraxi Central Command Hub in the Varellan Expanse. But Gage, he wanted to stop there only after one last detour. Back to Earth, to the grave they left behind, to find out what made the Xiraxi nervous. And me? I was going back for something else. My mother's voice, trapped in a data shard I'd seen ripped from her wrist as they hauled her away. It was time to go home and raise hell. The drop pod shook like a dying beast. Every bolt, every weld screamed as we plummeted through what was left of Earth's atmosphere. Radiation alarms wailed in the cockpit, and outside the viewport, the sky was a dull, suffocating crimson. We weren't supposed to return. Earth had been written off, a dead rock bleeding toxic clouds and crawling with scavenger drones. But the signal we intercepted broadcast an old Terran binary from beneath the Andes fault line. Told a different story. Someone, or something, was still alive down there. I gritted my teeth as gravity grabbed the pod and yanked it into a controlled crash, if such a thing existed. Gage sat beside me, silent as always, his armor darkened from decades of vacuum and vengeance. Across from us, Lex and Ada ran checks on their Gauss rifles. The four of us were all that was left of the original Hollowborn squad. The pod hit hard. My spine felt like it cracked in two, but I didn't have time to complain. The hatch exploded open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a world that used to be ours, and wasn't anymore. The Andes were now a graveyard of steel. Towers once designed for orbital elevators jutted out of the ground like jagged teeth. Rivers flowed black with industrial waste. The air stank of ash and alien rot. High above, the sky churned with lightning that never stopped flashing, thanks to magnetic fallout from the Xiraxi orbital strikes. Lex swept the area with a recon drone. No immediate hostiles, he said, but motion detected 6 clicks underground. Bingo, Ada muttered, sliding down a twisted beam of rebar. Signals deep, real deep. We descended into the hollow skeleton of the Earth, through collapsed subway lines, maintenance tunnels, and heat-scoured bunkers. We passed graffiti left by the last humans who tried to hide here. Most were warnings. Some were prayers. All were bones now. It wasn't just the Xiraxi who killed them. It was the cold, the hunger, the silence. I paused beside a shattered terminal. Old markings, UC command node. Functional. I jacked in with my neural interface, letting the data flow into my skull like ice water. Static at first, then voices. Cryostasis active. Anomaly contained. Warning. Sentient AI unclassified. I blinked hard. Guys, I whispered, I think we found what the bugs were afraid of. The signal led us to a vault door the size of a football field, carved directly into the bedrock. It was scorched from the outside, but still sealed. A Xiraxi claw was embedded in the steel, half melted. Whatever tried to get in hadn't succeeded. Gage stepped forward and pressed his gauntlet to the biometric pad. It sparked, then glowed green. Wait, I said. How the hell does that work? He didn't answer. The door screamed open. Behind it was a chamber of frozen starlight. Hundreds of cryopods lined the walls, each holding a single figure, perfectly preserved. Not just soldiers, scientists, engineers, strategists, all tagged with high clearance codes from the United Colonies. But one pod stood alone in the center of it all, and it wasn't human. Inside was a figure wrapped in obsidian armor, its face masked by a helmet that pulsed with lines of alien script. I recognized some of the shapes. Xiraxi, yes, but modified, rewritten, almost like someone had corrupted their language and bent it to their will. Ada ran a scan. No match in any known species. But it's alive. Cryostasis intact. And get this, its heartbeat is syncing with the Vault AI's frequency. Lex's voice shook. Whatever it is, Earth didn't build it, but someone hid it here, protected it. I stepped closer. That's when the pod hissed and opened. The being's eyes snapped open, black and burning like neutron stars. It didn't flinch. It didn't breathe. It just looked at me. And for a second, I wasn't sure I was looking at an alien at all. I was looking at vengeance, given form. Then it spoke. In English. You are late. My heart slammed against my ribs. You know us. I asked. It nodded. You are what remains. You are the Hollowborn, the flame of the fallen. Gage stepped forward, finally breaking his silence. You're the weapon, aren't you? The being tilted its head. I was the warning. Now I am the reckoning. Outside the vault, the earth quaked. We ran to the surface just in time to see the clouds split and dozens of Xiraxi dropships descending from the poisoned skies. They followed the signal, Ada said. I stared at the armored being beside us. Can you fight? Its helmet reshaped, revealing a face that was neither human nor insect, just fury wrapped in silence. I am not here to fight, it said. I am here to end them. The ground shattered beneath its feet as it launched into the air, tearing through the sky like a meteor of fire and wrath. Gage turned to us, a smile cracking his grizzled face. for the first time in years. Guess Earth isn't done yet. War in space isn't loud. It's not the theatrical boom you see in old films. It's silent, precise, surgical, and it's over before you even realize it started. But this time it was personal. The Xiraxi dreadnought Varzul floated like a demon corpse above the shattered remains of Earth's moon, its hull pockmarked with battle scars and plasma burns. A ship nearly a kilometer long, armed with weaponry capable of glassing entire continents. It had once led the planetary assault on Earth. Now it was our next target. We hit them just before lunar sunrise. 3 retrofitted skirmish pods, Hollowborn tech, stitched together from scrap and stolen pieces, darted in at near invisible speed. No transponder, no signature, just hate wrapped in metal. I was in Pod 1, riding co-pilot next to Ada. Gage was in Pod 2, Lex in Pod 3. Once we breach, Ada said through clenched teeth, we got 20 minutes before they start scrambling reinforcements from orbit. Plenty of time, I muttered. We're not here to conquer. We're here to steal. Because the Varzul wasn't just a symbol of their power. It carried something far more valuable. A tactical core. One that contained Xiraxi's entire war map of the local arm, fleet routes, planetary strongholds, base codes, slave supply chains. If we got our hands on it, we could strike anywhere. If we failed, they'd know we were coming and annihilate what was left of us. No pressure. We smashed through the outer hull using a kinetic ram, breaching one of the maintenance sectors near the spine. Vacuum tore at us for half a second. Then emergency doors sealed behind us. Inside, it was deathly still. Not because the ship was empty, but because Xiraxi ships felt dead. Everything was damp, chitinous, low-lit by bioluminescent sacs that glowed like tumors on walls. The air was thick with the smell of ammonia and rot. We moved fast, sweeping room by room. No sign of resistance. Too quiet, Ada whispered. Lex's voice came through comms. They're not moving toward you. They're avoiding you. I blinked. Why would they? Then I saw it. A trail of dried slime across the wall. But not Xiraxi. This was darker, older. We'd been here before. Earth, the being from the vault. And that's when I realized it was already aboard. The corridor opened into a central chamber, a cathedral-sized nexus of data conduits and neural hubs. At the heart of it stood the tactical core, a pulsating obelisk of living crystal, wrapped in organic fibers and synthetic veins. Guarding it were 5 Xiraxi prime claws, elite war commanders, each one twice my size, bristling with venom spears and psychic dampeners. Ada and I froze. Too many, she whispered. We can't. But we didn't have to, because the ceiling exploded. The armored being from Earth dropped like a thunderbolt, crashing into the chamber with a force that cracked the floor. One prime claw lunged and was pulverized midair. Its limbs ripped apart in a blur of movement I couldn't follow. The other four didn't run. Xiraxi don't run. They hissed, charged, and died. Quick, brutal, efficient. Blood sprayed across the tactical core, painting it in alien crimson. And the being turned to me. It is unlocked. I approached the core, jacking in through my neural tether. For 3 heartbeats, my mind split open. I saw everything. Convoys ferrying humans like cattle. Slave planets orbiting stars I couldn't aim. Hidden dread fleets waiting in deep space. And more, so much more. The heart of their empire pulsed at the center of it all. A planet called Zervana. Their cradle. Their throne world. Their sanctuary. Untouched by war for 1,000 years. Until now, I pulled back, gasping, adrenaline pounding like a war drum in my ears. This is it. I said aloud, we've got everything. Gage's voice cut in. Extract now. Orbital response en route. We've stirred the hornet's nest. Ada was already rigging plasma charges on the main reactor. This nest's gonna burn. We evacuated fast, sprinting through blood-soaked corridors as alarms howled behind us. Lex cleared a docking path with suppressive fire, dropping 3 drones before they could even target us. I turned back one last time as we reached the breach point. The being stood alone in the corridor. You're not coming? I asked. It shook its head slowly. They will chase you. I will give them a reason to fear doing so. The floor cracked under its feet as the dreadnought began to shudder, explosions blooming across its structure. Tell your kind, it said softly. They were not forgotten. Then it vanished into the smoke. We barely made it to our ship before the Varzal detonated, its remains scattering across the lunar orbit like burning rain. We watched in silence from the cockpit, and I didn't feel triumph. Not yet, just purpose. The Hollowborn had the map. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They called it Xiraxi 9, a name that meant nothing to Xiraxi. To them, it was just another storage moon, a processing pit, a place to dump the human survivors too broken to resist, too useful to kill. To us, it was hell. We had the coordinates now, ripped from the Varzal's tactical core. Gage, Ada, Lex, and I had argued for hours. This wasn't a smart move. Striking here wouldn't cripple the Empire, wouldn't win us the war. But that wasn't the point. We weren't going in for strategy. We were going in for them. The ones they forgot. The ones they left behind. The ones we didn't. The approach vector was thick with asteroid debris, half natural, half artificial. Xiraxi sentinels floated among the rocks like drifting sharks, dead-eyed and still until triggered. We masked our ship's signature, threading silently between them. Xiraxi 9's surface was a gray-brown nightmare of trench cities and processing centers. Every square kilometer was scorched metal and fungal overgrowth, shrouded in toxic clouds. There was no sun here, no wind, just chemical fog and the mechanical grinding of misery. The scanners picked up at least 5,000 human biosigns, scattered across the underground tunnels, most barely alive, the kind of vitals you'd expect in corpses still clinging to breath. Lex looked up from his screen. Face pale, they've got them working in atmospheric processors. Raw hands, no suits. Exposure rates are off the charts. I clenched my jaw until it hurt. How long before they die? He hesitated. Some already have. We didn't speak after that. We touched down behind a decommissioned terraformer, its legs rusted and half buried in sludge. From there, we moved underground, navigating the sewage tunnels that led into the labor sectors. The smell hit first. Burnt plastic, acidic sweat, something like rotting teeth. Then came the sounds. Not screams. Whispers. Hundreds of voices murmuring in the dark, huddled against walls, staring with empty eyes at nothing. One of them, an old man missing 3 fingers and half his jaw, looked up as we passed. You're not them. I knelt beside him. We're Hollowborn. I whispered. You're going home. His one good, I welled with tears. There's no home left. That broke something in me. We split into teams. Lex and Ada headed to the comms relay to jam transmissions, Gage and I to the detention rings. There were no cells, not in the way you'd think. Just pits. Human bodies packed in metal holes, layered like firewood, breathing, twitching, starving. And that's when I saw her. Hair gray, shoulders hunched, face gaunt but unmistakable. My mother. I dropped into the pit so fast I nearly broke my leg. Skidded on muck and blood, and grabbed her shoulders. Her eyes fluttered open. No recognition. Not at first. Then, Isaac. Her voice cracked like an old radio. I thought they told me you were gone. I'm not, I choked. I'm here, and I'm getting you out. She tried to smile. It almost worked. Gage, I called, my voice shaking. How many can we carry? He looked around. Not enough. We're not leaving anyone. The alarm started 5 minutes later. Lex's voice crackled in my earpiece. They've spotted the jammer. Whole patrol's moving on us. Time to go, Gage said. No, I growled. We hold them. He stared at me. We're outnumbered 20-1. I lifted my rifle. Then we give them a reason to bleed. What followed was chaos. Xiraxi foot soldiers dropped into the tunnels like wasps, clicking, skittering, firing acid pulses. We fought from shadow and sludge, ducking behind collapsed walls and rusted equipment. Every corner became a kill zone. Ada took a round to the leg, screamed through gritted teeth, and kept firing. Lex rerouted power from a nearby pump station and electrocuted an entire squad in a flooded hallway. I didn't shoot to disable, didn't hesitate. Every pull of the trigger was a message. You took everything. Now we take you. Just when it seemed we'd be overwhelmed, a rumble shook the earth. A crimson light bathed the corridor. The vault being had arrived. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. It moved like a god to the tunnels, cutting, ripping, burning. Its armor glowed with ancient runes that bent the very laws of motion. It tore the Xiraxi apart and left pieces behind for the rest to find. In 20 minutes, the patrols were gone, and Xiraxi, 9 belonged to us. We loaded every survivor we could onto the dropship, packed them shoulder to shoulder, carried the unconscious, the broken, the dying. Some cried, some didn't understand. Some sang old Earth lullabies as the engines ignited. As we lifted off, I looked down through the viewport at the slave pits, the fungal fields, the watchtowers now aflame. And I made a silent promise. We're not running anymore. Next stop, Zervana. The name alone made humans shiver. For centuries, it had existed as myth, whispers between prisoners, etched into cell walls by trembling hands. The homeworld of the Xiraxi Empire, the unbreachable core, the place where Earth's destruction was signed, sealed, and celebrated. Now it was our target. From orbit, Zervana didn't look like a world. It looked like a wound. Blackened terrain veined with glowing crimson, vast megastructures piercing the atmosphere like obsidian thorns. There was no blue, no green. The planet's surface was wrapped in industrial storm clouds and latticework plasma grids that shimmered with anti-ship energy. But buried beneath all of it, beneath the defense nets, beneath the atmosphere processors, beneath the thrones of warlords, was Imperium Codex, the living archive of Xiraxi law, leadership, and legacy. It housed their history, their hierarchies, their control over all enslaved systems. If we destroyed it, we wouldn't just gut their empire. We'd erase its memory. No empire survives without a history. Inside the war room of the Hollowborn flagship Ashwake, we laid out the plan. Gage's voice was razor-sharp as he briefed the crew. We're not facing a fleet. We're facing a planet. There are no reinforcements. No retreat vectors. If we go in to end this. He tapped the holomap. A glowing red point pulsed at the heart of the Xiraxi capital. Shrolzon, the central spire. 3 entry teams. 1 for the Codex. 1 for planetary comms. 1 for destruction protocol. We drop, we strike, we get out, or we die trying. No one flinched. Not Lex, who still limped from Xiraxi 9. Not Ada, whose arm had been replaced with a synthetic gauntlet, patched together from scrap and a Xiraxi drone's targeting core. Not me. Especially not me. I wasn't here to survive. I was here to finish what they started. The descent through Zervana's upper atmosphere was like flying through a grinder. Flak screamed past us. Firestorms lashed at our hulls. Lightning licked the edges of our shields. Then, impact. We slammed into a landing pad outside Shrolzon. The spire loomed above us, a monolith of alien cruelty, alive with writhing cables, moving plates, and defensive turrets that resembled insect mandibles. But they weren't prepared for us. The vault being had arrived first. It stood at the gates of the spire, surrounded by the broken remains of Xiraxi guards. Its armor pulsed with each step as it turned toward us. You have 10 minutes before their planetary protocols shift, it said, voice like echoing metal. Strike now. The heart is unguarded. Gage looked at me. You heard the goddamn Reaper. Let's move. We carved our way inside. Shrolzon wasn't built for humans. It breathed like a living organism, its walls slick with mucus, its floors shifting underfoot. The Xiraxi didn't just construct. It grew. We ran through bioluminescent corridors, taking down what little resistance remained. Drones shorted out. Guardians tried to psychically paralyze us, but Ada's new implant scrambled their signals. The Codex chamber was ahead, and it was unlike anything we'd seen. It was a cathedral of memory. Hundreds of suspended orbs hovered in midair, each one a recording, a command protocol, a psychic tether to a Xiraxi warlord or ruler. The room hummed with voices, Some screaming, some whispering, all ancient. Lex reached for the core. Don't touch it, I warned. Why? I stepped forward. Because it remembers. I placed my gloved hand on the central node. It reacted. Lights flashing, scripts crawling over my visor. And then it spoke. You are not of us. You are not permitted. I smiled coldly. No, I'm the one you forgot. I sent the virus. A brutal code packet written from old Earth syntax, fused with data we stole from the Varzal and the Vault being's own language. A 3-tiered kill switch. As the code spread, the orbs shattered one by one, like glass under pressure. Xiraxi mind screamed in the ether. Empires don't die in fire. They die in silence. Outside the spire, the ground split open. Entire defense systems shut down mid-cycle. Xiraxi warships began to drift, blind and confused. Communications collapsed. We ran, alarms shrieking behind us, as Shrozon began to crumble from the inside. As we reached the extraction point, the Vault being emerged from the inferno. Its armor was cracked. One arm hung limp, but it was still walking. You have struck the vein, it said. Now comes a hemorrhage. Gage nodded. And then something none of us expected happened. Humans began to rise. All across the planet, miners, slaves, exiles, broken shells of people, stood up. The Xiraxi didn't understand. Their systems were down. Their commands weren't being heard. And we had just proven that the monsters who ruled them weren't invincible. From orbit, other Hollowborn ships decloaked. The fleet had grown. What started as a rescue had become a revolution. As we lifted off, I looked down at the burning heart of Zervana. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was reclamation. They took everything from us. Now we were taking it all back. We didn't mean to start a galactic war. We meant to save our own. Strike a blow. Make the monsters bleed. But Zervana didn't just fall. It collapsed, dragging half the Empire with it. And the rest of the galaxy noticed. The broadcast went wide within hours. Raw footage from Shrozon's burning spire, from the shattered Codex orbs, from humans rising with bloodied fists and stolen rifles, flashed across pirate frequencies, resistance networks, and hidden data beacons in systems that had forgotten Earth even existed. 10,000 species saw the impossible. Humanity had survived. Humanity had fought back. And humanity had won. I watched it from the bridge of the Ashwake, the holoscreen glitching from the overloaded comms. In one sector, Xiraxi slave colonies were rebelling. In another, vassal species long subjugated by fear were declaring independence. Even some Xiraxi war clans began severing ties, no longer bound by the shattered psychic lattice of the Codex. It wasn't a ripple. It was a tidal wave. But not everyone celebrated. On the edge of known space, the Triarch Concord, a loose alliance of dominant alien civilizations, convened an emergency session. I'd heard of them. Empires built on order and control. The Triarchs didn't care about justice or war crimes. They cared about balance. And we had just broken it. The transmission came in encrypted, relayed through a surviving Earth node we hadn't touched in years. Gage, Ada, and I stood in silence as the figure flickered into view. A Triarch emissary, one of the Solri, tall, silver-skinned, faceless. It didn't speak in words. It imposed them into our skulls. The human uprising endangers galactic stability. Cease your operations. Surrender your assets. Submit to peace oversight. I laughed. Gage didn't. He stepped forward. No. The air rippled around the Triarch's projection. You misunderstand. This is not a request. It is a warning. If the Hollowborn continue, your kind will face extinction. Ada crossed her arms, her synthetic fingers sparking. You already tried that. Asked the Xiraxi how it worked out. The projection paused. Then ward is... and vanished. We had maybe a week. A week before the Triarch fleets reached U.S., before they turned their dreadnoughts and psychic assassins and gravity drills toward the fragile spark of rebellion we'd just lit. Most of our fleet was still patchwork. Half the humans we rescued weren't even fit to fight. The Vault being, our secret weapon, hadn't regenerated since the assault on Zervana. It sat in a stasis chamber, energy readings unstable, its armor cracked and bleeding light. But we weren't backing down. We had one shot. A Triarch armada was gathering at the Ventari conflux, a central trade nexus of wormhole lanes. From there, they could blitz into any sector, including ours, in less than a day. So we made a plan, not to wait, to strike first. We assembled every able ship, fighters made from gutted cargo haulers, frigates welded from asteroid harvesters. We even retrofitted an old Xiraxi cruiser, renamed it the Vengeance of Keto. It wasn't a fleet built for conquest. It was built for one mission. We called it Ashfall Protocol. The flight toward Ventari was quiet. Too quiet, not just in sound, but in the soul. I walked the length of the ship before we jumped, spoke to survivors turned pilots, children too young to know Earth, now strapping into combat seats. One of them, maybe 16, handed me a shard of burned concrete. From Manhattan, he said. They said you were from there. I nodded. I want to put in the heart of one of their ships, he added. Then, let's get you close. The battle began the moment we exited warp. Ventari burned bright with energy. 30 Triarch ships orbiting a station the size of a moon. They were ready. But so were we. We didn't come with more ships. We came with more rage. Our AI-guided boarding torpedoes struck first, piercing hulls, releasing wave after wave of Hollowborn fighters into the belly of the enemy. Explosions tore through the silence of the void. I led the charge into the flagship, Concord Unity, personally. With Gage and Ada at my side, we stormed their control decks, disabling their FDL cores, rerouting power to self-destruct loops. Lex, from orbit, directed a synthetic virus into their command matrix. He'd been working on it since Xiraxi 9. The virus didn't just crash their systems. It broadcasted our uprising directly into every screen in the galaxy, live. So they could see humans weren't hiding anymore. One by one, Triarch ships began to flee. Some detonated. Some simply went dark. By the end of it, the Ventari station was a blackened husk, but we left a message in its ashes. You don't warn humanity. You remember what happened when you forgot us. As we regrouped in the debris field, the stars around us began to fill with new signatures. But not enemies. Allies. Ships bearing banners of once-conquered worlds. Merchant clans. Pirate factions. Rebellious vassal races. They weren't joining a cause. They were answering a call. I looked at Gage. We lit the fire. He nodded. Now we burned the rot away. We were no longer fugitives. No longer ghosts in the ruins of Earth. We were the spark. We were the storm. We were the answer to a galaxy that thought humanity had been erased. And now they came to us. The Hollowborn fleet hung in high orbit over Nova Bastion, a rogue asteroid station we had converted into the beating heart of the Resistance. Its hull gleamed with repurposed Xiraxi alloys and earth steel, carved with the names of every fallen city, every burned colony, every name we swore not to forget. On the central deck, banners fluttered, each one a symbol of a freed world. 27 species had joined us, some for justice, some for revenge, and some because, for the first time, they believed we stood together. And the galaxy watched. The Triarch Concord didn't fall easily. What remained of their fleets regrouped in distant systems, hiding behind treaties, mercenary shields, and old oaths. But they were fractured, hunted by their own subjugates, outpaced by our fury. They tried one last gambit, a peace summit. Gage almost refused. Ada wanted to rig the meeting hall with explosives. But I said yes, not because we wanted peace, but because they needed to see who we become. The summit was held on Zender 4, a neutral world once used for interstellar diplomacy. It was pristine, untouched by war. I hated it on sight. We entered the hall unarmed, not because we lacked weapons, but because we were the weapons now. The Triarch emissaries waited, flanked by guards in silver armor, faces unreadable. Their leader, the same Sauri who once warned us, stepped forward. You seek vengeance. We offer structure. Lay down your arms, and we will recognize humanity's sovereignty. I stepped forward slowly, No. His voice was a whisper of wind and teeth. You refuse peace? I refuse submission dressed as mercy. I turned, eyes sweeping across the gathered delegates. You watched Earth burn. You let the Xiraxi carve up our people. You did nothing. You don't get to tell us what's enough. I held up a small data crystal, the last fragment of the Imperium Codex. The old order is dead. Then I crushed it in my hand. We're building something new. The vote came within days, not just among humans, but among every species now united beneath the Hollowborn, a galactic council of the broken, of the survivors, of the willing. We called it the Accord of Cinders, not an empire, not a dominion. A vow. No species enslaves another. No world is forgotten. And if you take, we take you apart. The vault being, now healed but changed, remain our guardian. It stood watch at Nova Bastion, speaking rarely, but watching everything. I asked it once, alone, what it truly was. Judge, witness, executioner, it said, but now perhaps more. Why help us? It looked at me with eyes older than stars. Because when the galaxy extinguished your light, you became fire. Gage retired after the summit. He said he'd had enough of death, that his war was over. Ada became our first envoy, traveling between newly liberated systems, uniting them under shared pain, shared purpose. Lex rebuilt Earth's archives, what little data we recovered, into the core of our new network. Every fallen name, every erased record, reborn. And me? I became something I never expected. A leader, not a conquest, of memory, because the galaxy still whispers. They say we are dangerous. They say we cannot be trusted. They say Earth birthed monsters. They're right. We are dangerous. We remember, and we will never be forgotten again. We were Hollowborn,